and welcome to my YouTube channel, Julia McNeil. So today we're going to do a little bit of an altered art project, and we're going to use the theme of our Daisy Tot from the Garden Tots collection. So I have recently been tidying up my craft space. I had lots of stuff in the loft, I had lots of stuff that I've bought and never used, lots of stuff that I've squirreled away. So this is actually, I'll show you what this is. This is from a Scrabble set. So I have this Scrabble board, which, here it is here, look. It's a really old set that is literally falling apart. The book was falling apart and everything. So I have plans to make that into a journal. And I just sort of saved that aside, and then I was like, oh, this could be used. So I've got all my keys here. So I was thinking that we could do a mixed media project. This is a, here we go, a wooden shape that I bought years ago from Anna Marie Designs. So this little fence. So I was thinking we could glue it to the back of the Scrabble thing, put in the word Daisy with our Scrabble letters, and have our little Daisy Tot just there. I was thinking that might be quite cute. So that is what we're going to attempt to do. So there's going to be a few stages to this. So the first thing I need to do is to get that glued. So what I am going to do is I'm just going to pop my glue gun on. I wouldn't recommend that you use a glue gun for this, hot glue, because it will ping off. You're best using a gel medium. The reason why is your gel medium has an element of a slight flexibility to it, so it tends to cope better with moves and changes and all of this sort of stuff, whereas your hot glue gun will become quite brittle. However, the advantage of your hot glue gun is that you have an immediate adhesion. My also initial thing is that's all I have got left of my current gel medium. I have got more on order and I'm hoping it's going to arrive soon. So what I'm going to do is mostly put gel medium on this, because that's the most sensible thing to do, but I will put a few blobs of hot glue as well. And the reason being that the hot glue will just allow me to sort of keep moving on to the next couple of stages, whereas the gel medium will give me the more permanent adhesion. So I'm going to put plenty of gel medium onto these bits here because I really want it to stick, so I'm going, it's getting quite thick and gloopy this as well. Okay, I have ordered some more, so hopefully it will arrive soon. Let's see if we've got any heat in this yet. It's thinking about it. Right, I will just pause you for a second. I've discovered that if you want it to work, try turning it on. I also realised that I'd put that gel medium a little bit high, so I'm trying to work fairly quickly. The glue gun's not quite hot enough, to be honest. But we're just going with it, so it's going to take a little bit longer, but hopefully that should be enough. So I'm just going to pop that there, and as I said, that gel medium should give us that permanent adhesion, and the glue gun, the hot glue, will just allow us. But I thought, how different is that, eh? Quite like that idea, obviously, because I'm doing it. State the obvious, Julia. Okay. So I'll try and neaten that up a little bit. Right, I'm going to put a little bit of gesso on this. I quite like the wood effect, and obviously building up it is meant to be a fence. So I think we're just going to put a really, actually so I'm trying to decide whether to go white gesso or pure gesso. I'm thinking possibly the transparent, actually. Right, this one I always seem to have difficulty opening. Okay, I'll do that off camera. So, I was going to say I finally got the gesso open, but actually, that's my husband, if he could open it, and he couldn't open it either, so we ended up having to keep the lid. So, the moral of the story is, try and make sure that you don't allow this bit to get too gunked up with your product. So I'll be giving that a good clean before I close it back up. Yeah, so I quite fancy still sort of having the wood effect to this, because obviously it's meant to be a fence and everything. So I think we'll go with the MDF. I probably will dry brush it with some sort of colour just to give it an extra added detail. So, but I'm just priming it with the gesso first, because you will tend to find with your MDF that your products will sort of sink into it a little bit. So it just allows your product to go further, and also it just sort of makes sure that all the surfaces that we work on have an even playing field. So I'm going to do work to this first. Just once I've done this, I'm going to actually close the door again. We've got all sorts going on in the household at the minute. I think the telly box is on and we're playing games and all sorts of stuff. So I'm going to add a bit of colour to this first, because I don't want to give the letter tiles the same sort of coloration that this gets. So I'm going to do this first, get a bit of colour on there, and then once that's dried we will stick our letters on. And then I'm going to use some of the flower stamps and things to create a little bit of a backdrop for this. So I think we'll get some of the big daisies out, and then we'll have a little girl. I was thinking of doing some paper piecing with her dress, so we'll maybe do that on camera, because I don't think paper piecing is something I've really done on my channel so far. I know I did it on a live recently. Paper piecing is one of those things that I did when I first started, and then I've kind of rediscovered it a little bit. So I'm just going to leave that there, and I'll be back with you in a moment. So I've already stamped our daisy out. I'm going to do a little bit of colouring with you. It's not something that I do all of that often on my channel. Partly because I learned to colour by following the classes at Kit and Clyder, and I'm a firm believer that if you're going to learn from the best. So she has her filming all set up specifically to deal with colouring. So my camera's overhead, which means my hand is covering what I'm doing, so you can't see it quite so clearly, whereas she has her film set up so that she films from the side so you can see what's going on with the nib. So that's one good thing. Also, she's just amazing, and she does individual feedback, and I just feel that if you've got the opportunity to learn from the best, then learn from the best rather than have second-hand information. So I've put a whole layer of E00s down first. Partly why I'm doing that is it just is alcohol based. So getting a layer of the alcohol down just helps the other layers blend in. So that's kind of how I like to do it. Then I'm going to put my shadow areas in. So I'm going for my darkest colour. So this, you'll have heard me talk about colour theory before. Anything in front of it has a shadow, so there will be a shadow behind. So I get those dark shadows in, and I have gone for quite a dark colour, which can be quite scary. This is, again, is the colour. This is E04. This is what Elise recommends. So again, there you go. See how much darker that is when there's a shadow. So don't be afraid of your shadows. It is what makes things really pop and make a difference. So I'm getting some shadow areas in, and then I just sort of blend out. So I'm going to gradually go down my colours now and blend that out. But I would highly recommend that you check out Elise's classes. I've taken all of her technique classes, and I have done a fair few of her monthly ones. I have stopped doing the monthly ones just purely in that now I don't have the time to do those lessons all the time, but I think if you're wanting to know how to colour, then she's well worth checking out. And the thing is, we spend a fortune on these pens, do you know what I mean? And the reason that we spend, the reason that we go for it and think, do you know what, actually I'm going to go for that really expensive pen instead of colouring felt tips, is because we see the results and think, I want those results. But sometimes that is down to learning how to use the tools that you have is important. So I will put the link to Elise's website below, but I would highly recommend that you do it. So I don't normally like to colour because I do really like to send people there. And the reason I am doing it now is we're actually not going to colour this whole image because we're going to do some paper piecing. So now I've done this, I'm sort of kind of judging how things look. She needs some rosy cheeks and she needs her lips done. So I'm just going to get the colours to do that. We'll do her hair. And then, oops, That was me being lazy. I pulled the chisel in about, but I wasn't intending to do it. Then we're going to paper piece her. So let me just get the other colours. I bring a bit of pink into her cheeks. And I'm just going to brush in from the side. It's funny, when I started colouring, I really did all of these, you know, put like pink circles into the work, and I don't know, I loved that at the time. Now I prefer to have it sort of come down the side of the face. And again, I'm not afraid to put it in. I'm not just thinking about the cheek area. Yes, I've kind of highlighted the cheek area, but I've kind of gone over most of her face, to be honest. And then I'll get my lightest E and push that back in, because the alcohol in that will sort of push it back. So that just pops it to where that's meant to be. So that's sort of flooded with alcohol right now, so it's maybe not the best time to go in and do your lips because it's likely to bleed. So I'm just going to give that a moment to evaporate, and I will pull out some colours. I'm just going to go with some browns. So I'm sticking with the two family. So we've got 2, 9, 2, 7, 2, 5. I should have the 2, 1 out for colouring her hair, so there we go. And so again, this is how Elise taught me, so I would highly recommend, like I did the paid for classes, and I would honestly say it's the best money I have ever spent. I used to look at people's colouring and think I want mine to be like that, and it never was. And I would try, and I would watch free YouTube tutorials, and I would try and copy, but I never quite worked out why mine didn't look the same. But the advantage with Elise's classes is that she does one-on-one feedback, so I do think it's worth paying for them. But if you don't want to do that, because obviously I appreciate everyone has different budgets and different priorities that, you know, when they're spending their hard-earned money on, we all sort of choose to spend it on different things. That might not be your thing. I quite like to spend money on education, so you know, for me it was a no-brainer, but it might not be your wheelhouse, and that's okay. But if it's not, then she does free classes as well. So this is like with the hair, this is the main thing I learned from Elisa. Again, I'm going for shadow areas, so I'm just putting a thick line for that, and then I'm just getting the tip and I am flicking, and I'm flicking away from myself. And I've started with the darkest colour, and then I will move down the colours again. So that's me going with E29, and I will gradually work my way down that. Also, Elise will explain how the thing works. So basically you've got your pigment and your shadow content. So 2 is the pigment and the second number is the shadow content. So it's not numerical. So you might sit there and think, oh, but my 3-2 is higher than my 2-9. Well, it's not, because 3 is the amount of pigment and 2 is the amount of shadow, so you'll find it doesn't work numerically like that. So it's worth kind of understanding the system. But all my 2s are sort of, they've got the same pigment colour, but the second colour is the shadow colour. So I know if I gradually work down those, I am going to get my shadows and my midtones and all of that sort of stuff. So I'm just popping all of that in, like so. This is not how she teaches you to do it, because I'm sort of filling in and you're not really supposed to do that, but that's why it's best to learn directly from her. But to be honest, I'm going a bit fast because I'm aware that I'm recording and I don't want this video to be horrendously long. Now, to be honest, I would probably go over and do that again, just to strengthen it a little bit, but I'm not going to for this moment in time. I might do it when I'm off camera, but we'll see how we go. So I'm going to give her a little red nose, and now I'm going to come in that natural colour there, that we used in her skin tone, and that'll just give me the base of the shadow areas. Now I'm going to go over it with the brighter red that we had for her nose, and then I'm just going to fill in that top bit with a lighter pink. As I said, if I was colouring normally, I would be doing this in way more detail. I do tend to take ages with my colouring, but it's kind of not the main focus of this project, to be honest. Right, I'm just going to colour in her legs now, yellow, like so. And then I've got a darker yellow, which I am going to run down both sides of a stripe. Don't want to do it completely because that's sort of what gives you that like little cute shadowy look at the thing. And then I think I'll just, let's give her some little brown shoes. Right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be paper piecing this. So any of the rest of it is not going to be seen because it's going to be paper pieced. Possibly the flowers. I'm not sure that I'm going to paper piece the flowers, but so what I would now do is just take a marker and very quickly grab the edge lines, because you might find that with, if things move slightly as you stick them down, you might end up with a little bit of it showing, but if you've kind of covered the edge in yellow, you're going to minimise the impact of if a little bit of it ends up showing. It's not going to be as noticeable. So I'm literally just kind of drawing around the edge of all of that so we don't have a white edge. I'm going to leave the flowers at the minute because I haven't at this moment decided whether I'm going to paper piece those or whether I am going to colour them. So I'll just leave them blank for the minute, and then we will see how we get on with that. So that's that for just now, and I'm going to pull the stamp out and we will sort the paper piecing side of it out. So I have got one of my slims from Be Crafty. I have to say I am a newfound fan of slim acrylic blocks. I do find that they're much easier, and I've got my VersaFine Claire, and this is one of the papers from the delightfully dotty paper pad. And I'm just going to stamp into that. Now I'm kind of focusing, basically what I want is her dress and the daisy hat. I am going to stamp it a couple of times because I want to decoupage it slightly so that we get a bit more more raised elements to her dress. So that is quite cute, so I'm going to do that. And I've also sort of deliberately tried, there's a very faint dot in this paper, and I've deliberately tried to sort of catch that dot in the dress. So hence why it's going to look like I'm kind of stamping these at funny angles. That's because I'm trying to hit the bit of the paper that I want. So I'm just going to pop that again on there, and we will flex. So you can sort of do a test. It's flex, don't bend. There we go. And now we have her. So there's more interest on this one, so I want that to be my top layer. So I'm going to cut this out first. So I'm not sure if I said at the beginning of this video, I'm sort of videoing lots of things at the same time at the minute, sort of flipping between videos, and this is me actually making projects ready for the promotion of this collection. So yeah, by the time you see it, this will have been a few weeks old. So basically now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut round just the outfit. I don't need the rest of it, which is why we didn't fill it in, but then it's going to sit just there. So let's cut this out. Let's see, I'll not do all of this because I'm not quite sure how how long this video. Hopefully you've just grabbed yourself a cuppa. I actually like long talky videos. To be honest, I try and make both. I know my father-in-law watched one of them and he was like, can you not make them shorter? I do have short ones. And I know I've had some of you that when I've put a few short ones up, I've gone, oh, I'm glad we've got a nice long chatty video, and other of you prefer it nice and short and sweet. Either's fine, to be honest, but I try and do a mixture of both, but I think this one might be one of our longer ones. But I actually, when I'm watching them, I like longer chatty videos. I tend to watch videos when I am doing my ironing or doing jobs, and it like I was watching Dawn the other day while I was sorting my craft room. So there we go, she's now got a little dress. So if you're not confident with colouring either, all we've done is her face and her hair, and the rest of it, the paper's done. So we'll add a few little elements to that to make it a bit more interesting. But we'll just leave the hat because you've seen me fuss a cut. But what I'm going to do now is, actually we could maybe have done, is this skirt. So I'm not even going to do the bodice, I'm going to just do the skirt part, because I also find when I do this I quite like to kind of create a little bit of depth. So I'm just going to cut this, and then these petals here, this is what I'm saying, I could have possibly had those petals there are right at the back. Do you know what, I think I'm going to stamp it a few more times. I do indeed. I'll show you what I mean. So that petal is right at the back. So I am going to, so I've cut those two off, and I'm actually going to just stamp another one now, and in the next one I'm going to cut it out, but cut this one out. And what that means is when we go to piece it all together, we're going to have a really 3D element to our skirt, which I quite like. And this is sort of like the old-fashioned decoupage, but you can do it in a way that works. So then this will become a bit more raised, and so that we make her skirt a bit more funky. So I'm just going to do another layer, chop out the hat, colour the flowers, cut them all out so that we're ready to sort of put that together. Okay, so that's me got all the bits cut out. I'm just going to grab some Distress ink and a mustard seed. I'm just going to go around the edges of this to get rid of that white edge, because it should be sort of sitting, oh, you can't see that, should be like sitting like that, so I just kind of want to take that white edge off a little bit because it just bothers me. So if it bothers you, do something about it. If it doesn't bother you, just leave it. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and then all of these pieces I am going to, because this is what's going to give it depth, so I'm going to really go in and sort of try and make sure that there's an edge to this. We will try and go in with our pen as well, again, and just sort of add the depth to that, and then we will glue all of this together. So let's get all of that in. There we go. So I'm going to keep doing that. Sorry, hope this is not overly boring to watch. It's these little touches that make a difference, though, I have to say. It's like when you remember to edge, or so I think any dodgy cut work gets covered up with edging, and also just again, it's that highlight, mid-tone and shadow. If you've put a little bit of extra of something in, it makes such a difference. So now I'm going to grab these and then grab, so like just behind here there would be a little bit of shadow because there's a petal in front of it. So I'm not quite sure how, the trouble is I've stamped this with VersaFine Clear rather than Memento, so I'm going to have to be quite canny with my markers because it will bleed slightly. I should have really used a Memento ink, but I didn't think about that at the time. So it's fine, we just need to be a bit gentle. So I'm not doing loads, but it just gives a little bit more depth. So I'm literally just going into what would be the shadow areas. So for, well, this one's been covered, so I don't need to worry about that because that one is going to be covered by this one. So for this one I've got, and this one's going to be covered by this one, so I don't need to worry about that. But maybe here, so I'm going to come in and just add a little bit of detail to that, and again it's just all these little elements that just starts to add depth and dimension to your work. I'm also let's just colour in, she's got the little flower here, so I'm just going to add a bit of pink to that there. I'm going really canny because, as I said, this is VersaFine Clear, but I'm not too worried if it bleeds in that too much because that again will add depth. And then we can just colour these little bits in pink. Okay, so once we've done all that, then we need to stick it together. Now this is normally where I would maybe use gel medium or pin flare glue. I'm just actually wondering where I never liked traditional decoupage that sort of came up flat, so you had a layer about that thick there and then another layer about that. It was never really my thing, to be honest. And this is also partly why I coloured a little bit of this yellow, because now I can start to add depth just by shaping the paper a little bit. So I'm going to stick this one down flat. Okay. So this is, again, if colouring isn't your thing, you know, we've really quickly and effectively managed to create a huge colour on her dress. We've coloured the big area just with paper, so paper piecing is great for that. So I've kind of cut into that a little bit, and I'm just going to shape this and curl the edges. So what I maybe would do is have a little bit, I'll probably do a little bit actually, and unfortunately I don't have much gel medium, so I'll get the old pin flare out to be my glue of choice until I discover gel medium. So basically I kind of want this raised a little bit. Right, this is a brand new tube, I've literally just pulled the thing off. They do give you little syringes, but I have never ever got on with them. So I'm just putting a little bit, so it's a little bit thicker. So this is where I kind of get my dimension. I put sort of like an element of thickness, and then actually you can just use the pin flare glue flat like that. But and so then we kind of stick, I'm going to stick the waistline down flat, but we'll have a bit more shape to her skirt. Okay, and this is how I like to do decoupage. I mean, I like the idea of it, but I was never a big fan of the traditional decoupage. But I do like the 3D elements of it, and I used to do this loads when I first started crafting. I used to do this loads with my stamped images because I really felt that it gave such huge depth. Now, I don't think, it's a combination of shaping it with my fingers and adding that in. So again, I've got that, yeah, it does need to have that extra depth, just because that's what's going to make this layer, it's going to make this stand out a little bit more. But as I said, I still like the waist, I still want the waist to be quite flat, so that it's just the skirt. There you go. So then this one, there's slightly more to this bit than the other layer, so we've got the different layers there, and it just makes her skirt look far more puffball. And then this is where I sort of coloured the edges of things, because we've allowed for that puffiness now. Look at the dimension on that, that's cool, isn't it? We've allowed for that puffiness, but we've done it in a way that there's still a shape. But as I said, there's lots of different ways to do that. So I'm just going to stick this one down flat, like so. And then, and as I said, I've deliberately made sure the top layers I've got, there's ever such a slight polka dot, very pale polka dot in that paper, and it is just to make it look a bit more interesting. So the glue gel, it's a bit like your gel medium, it's going to need time to dry. It's very good actually, pin flare glue is very good. I just tended to find that I wasn't overly good at looking after it. So for this one I haven't got lots of layers of this flower, so I'm just literally getting the shape of that one by snipping into it and then curling it. So again, I'm just going to grab, I'll give you a bit of a tip with your pin flare in a second. Yeah, I'd quite find, I don't know how many times I ended up throwing away parts of my tubes of pin flare because I'd let it dry. But I'll give you a wee tip in a minute, and then I'd sort of create holes at the side and try and get it out the side and all sorts. Right, so we've got that there. There you go. Doesn't she look so cute with that extra dimension? I love it. And so she'll sort of pop there when we've got everything all sorted. Okay, so when air gets into this, it dries really solid, which is what makes it fantastic. But it's a real pain. So if you actually just push your glue out so that it's sort of sticking out, and whilst it's sticking out like that, pop your cap on it. And what you will tend to find is that glue that is out with the tube will solidify, and you just pop that off when you next open it, and then the glue underneath is fine. Otherwise it starts drying down the tube, and then that's when you have problems. Okay, so that's our little daisy girl. This is quite dry now, so I'm going to go on to colouring up some of that, and then we can get some of the other floral elements together once we've done that. I'm just going to find a charger for my iPad and clear my desk a little moment. I've pulled out a few of my Pebble brown paints. We'll see how we get on. I'm just going to try and gradually build this up. So this one is yellow ochre, and then we have raw sienna, and then let me see, what have we got here? Burnt umber. So I think they're fairly neutral colours, but I can't open that for the minute, so we'll just see. I don't want to lose the MDF completely. I just want there to be a bit more interest to it. So I'm just going to dry brush it. That's quite heavy handed actually, but that's okay. I'm just wanting to, as I said, give it a little bit more interest, give it a bit of depth and shade and tone, all of these things that I like to do just to sort of add a bit of, make it a bit more natural looking, because wood on a fence isn't an overly even colour. That's working, those two work quite well together. So that's the burnt umber and the yellow ochre and the raw sienna. I've got a very dry, straggly brush here. Oops. So it doesn't matter if I end up, like, that was a bit heavier handed than I wanted, but as I said, if you think of a broken down picket fence, it's not an even colour, and I suppose that's kind of what I was wanting, that's sort of what I'm wanting to accomplish with just adding a little bit of colour. I was wanting it to just look a bit more realistic. So I'm achieving that just with a little bit of dry brushing of those colours, but I think that's, probably going to be quite good. I think that might just be enough just to, as I said, make it look just a tad more interesting. I might just get a little bit of a darker colour again. So dry brushing, it's just kind of putting a paint to about 3/4 of the way up your brush and then sort of running flat. I don't have texture to catch up on this so much, so I am sort of using the edge and the bristles a bit more. But as I said, I'm not wanting a flat even colour, I'm trying to create a bit of a broken fence. I'm trying to make it not look like brand new MDF out of a packet and make it look more like a rustic broken fence. Okay. So, again, yeah, and as I said, a lot of this is going to be covered with flowers and embellishments and bits and bobs. I'm wondering whether just to make it a bit more exciting, whether I should put a tiny bit of gold on there. Sorry, my squeaky chair is rubbing against the side. So this is a Pebble paint as well. It's like oh my goodness, do I own brown acrylics? It's not really a, oh, that's quite nice. I mean, you wouldn't get gold on a picket fence, but it's also a craft project, so I need to make it just look yummy. So that is quite nice. I do quite like that. And as I said, I may have to get a darker, we may have to get the burnt umber as well on there. I'm just gradually building it up. What I may do now, because it's like, this is a bit like when I do my shadowing, it's maybe not going to be overly interesting to sort of watch in real time. So I think I'm going to put a bit of burnt umber, and I might also just put a bit of white, but I'm just going to gradually build that up a little bit. Really chuffed with how that it's turned out it does look a bit more like weathered wood. We've also got a touch of bling there because we added the gold. Yeah, so I'm much happier with that. So now I'm going to stick my lighters on. So again, I'm going to use gel medium for this because it's going to give that permanent adhesion. I've got a few other steps to do, so I'm hoping that it'll stick enough to sort of let me play a bit in a bit. So I'm just going to run some gel medium along there and then stick it in. I mean, these things are designed to take your Scrabble letters anyway, so it should sit there nicely. I don't know whether I will do anything to them, to the letters, to sort of tie it in or blend it in. I just knew I didn't want it the same as the wood effect. I knew I was wanting to create a wood effect, but I didn't want to do that over my letters as well. I wanted them to stand out. So we're just going to, oops, got that in the wrong way. Pop that. There we go. Like so it just shows you can use absolutely anything. Honestly, because I was sorting out my loft, because I used to craft in the loft and then I've been down here for quite a while because obviously it's my work now, and my husband felt like when I would go into the loft I'd have the heater on. I'd quite often go out with an outdoor coat on and gloves and hat and scarf. But obviously if I really wasn't in the mood for it, I just didn't. But when it's your work you kind of have to, so yeah. It's like I think you'd be more comfortable down here, and I am. But it has been, I've sort of been a bit all over the place, so I've brought all my stuff down. I wouldn't say, I mean it's handy having it all here, but it's not nicely workable. I have to say, it's like I've got it all in, but there's boxes piled upon boxes, and you can always guarantee that as much as I've tried to make it that the stuff I use the most is on the top boxes, I still seem to always need something right at the bottom box. So it does have its frustrations, but we're at least we're all in one room now, which helps. So that's that all stuck. We've got our little daisy. She will stand there somehow. Isn't that cute? So now I'm going to stamp up. We'll do some more stamping and see whether just having it plain like this is enough, or whether we want to sort of embellish it a bit further with flowers and bits and bobs. So I'll be back in a moment. So I'll stamp out the daisy. I'm using my VersaFine Clear because I am going to be watercolouring, because I just want to do some quick easy colouring for this. So I'm going to stamp this out. So a couple of tips when you're stamping: obviously make sure it's well inked. Also just be aware, if we think of the logistics of it, the ink is currently sitting on the stamp. We want it to sit into the paper. So it just takes a wee moment to absorb into the paper, so just be patient. A bit of even pressure. With these lovely slim blocks, you can kind of just flex and just check that it has transferred. You can do sort of like a little quick check, and if it's all looking good, we lift it and we have a perfect impression. So I'm just going to stamp 2 or 3 of these. I'm going to just use very, very loose and messy watercolouring because yeah, I don't believe in doing it properly when I'm going to fussy cut it all out. And actually if you go out with the lines, you can kind of get away with more with your fussy cutting. Actually, if I do it this way, I'll be able to fit more on the page. So I'm just going to do that, but I'm going to pop you on fast forward when I do that, because again it's just a little bit repetitive. Coloured those in. As you can see, it's very loose watercolouring, but I like doing that, and you end up with all the different shades and tones just by letting the water do its own thing, which is pretty cool. So we've got our daisy there, and then I'm just going to, I'm thinking that some of these big daisies kind of overshadowing her a little bit might be quite nice. Let's I don't want it taking away from her. I want it sort of something like that maybe. What do we think? I quite like that. So I'm going to stick those on. I've also got, I've not got everything all stamped up and coloured yet. I'm still sort of working my way through that, but I do have, from the paper pad and the fussy cut sheets, I do have a few of those cut out. So we should have enough just to work on this project here. I'm just going to grab another brush for the gel medium. Let's get Daisy stuck down to start off with. So yeah, actually if we have her sort of tucked behind her name there, then that sort of, and then we'll work around that. So just gonna stick some, because I'm applying it fairly thin, hopefully it should adhere quite quickly. There we go. Right, the other thing I'm just going to do is I'm going to add, excuse me, my daughter's obviously getting very excited. She's watching Muppets in Space. We've just recently got Disney Plus, and she's sort of discovered the Muppets. Mind you, I don't think Lost in Space is on Disney Plus, to be honest, but I think because she's watched a few of the Muppet movies now, it's kind of like, oh, we're a tad obsessed. It's like, I think she watched all the Muppet movies there was one day and then literally watched them all again the next day. So it's like, yeah. So I'm just going to cut into these, as I said, just to sort of create a little bit of dimension to the flowers, especially on a mixed, well, a project like this. I think the more depth and interest that we have, the better. So once we've got the daisies put in, then we'll just see what else we have in our box of tricks. As I said, we'll just be using what we've got. I'm not going to make any more up tonight, but I kind of made up the main feature parts that I definitely wanted, and the rest we will just I can barely hear over the music. I've got the door closed and everything, but yeah, they're obviously having lots of fun. But I want this one up quite high, so I'm just going to catch the tips of that. So let's just get a bit of gel, and then hopefully when we put the next one on, that'll help us to stick to it. I quite liked it when it was off to the side a little bit. Okay, it's kind of strange getting you to do this in a way that you can see it. Let's actually take, I'm going to take, which one's best? I'm going to take the head, the little seed head off. It's just not quite working with that at the minute. It's making it a bit too cluttered, but it means that we've then got that to pop into another part. So feel free to sort of make your images work for you. Trying to do this so that it, yeah, I think that kind of works. Right, so again I'm just going to brush a bit of gel medium down the stem. If we squidge out with this or whatever, it is really not a problem because it does dry clear. I'm going to just, I just want to sort of tuck that, there we go. There we go, that looks, I just, in that particular instance, having that extra bud, it was just making things look a bit messy. There we go, that's cute, isn't it? And then we'll have one back. Oh, I don't know whether to, ooh. Yeah, I think we'll have that one on the front. Why not? Just mix it up. Right, and then we'll see what we've got just to finish putting this together. Right, I'm feeling that with this one here is going to keep flopping back and forth, so I'm just going to pop a bit of gel medium on that flower there and hopefully just pinch those two together a little bit. And because that bottom one has got more gluing it to the back, hopefully that should support that one. It's not wanting to stick together just yet, so just to look at that. Oh, I'm so chuffed. You know when you have an idea in your head and you just hope that the reality sort of works out remotely like what's in your head. Right, we've got little Sorry the noise, excuse the noise. We've got little Queenie there as well. So I think she's quite nice there. I might pop a bit of 3D foam. As I said, I do apologise for the noise. At least someone's happy. Right, stupid little 3D foam this is. I hate little bitty ones like this. Ridiculous stuff. And I'm just going to curve her slightly as well. Where's my... I'm just going to take that white off as well. Let's get the ink pad. It's probably lying somewhere in a heap underneath all of this rubbish. Sorry, I'm just seeing the view you've got. It's not great, is it? It's kind of one of those projects that I'm needing it to be upright to work on it and you're needing it to be flat to see it. So I'm trying my best to sort of keep pushing it back so that you can see. Okay, I'll take some of this off and then I'll try lying it flat and see if I can work on it flat. And again, I'm just going to grab a bit of gel medium just because I want this a bit more permanently. Let's just see if we can lie this flat. You might end up with my head in shot a few times, but we can live with that. I need something right on the feet. There's nothing to stick to. Right, I'm probably going to have to double these ones up. We'll get there. Sorry for all this faffing about. Right. So, oops. It's not wanting to happen. If this faffing takes too long, I will do something about it. Right. Let's get some more gel medium on that. Let's soak all of that in gel medium. It'd be better using a strip of cardboard. Right, there we go. So we've got our little Queenie just there next to Daisy. Right, we've got some clouds and things. I'm wondering whether we could put some bits on acetate strips so that they're floating in the air. Possibly. Right, let's have a look at, we've got these sort of cool circly mushroom things. So we could have a few of those. Maybe have a pink one as a contrast. I've got a pink one there. Do, 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 do. Just got that song in my head now. Right, we've got loads of flowers in this one. Loads and loads. We've got some polka dot ones. I don't want to hide the fence too much, so actually that might be a bit big. Let's just go for some smaller ones. I do think that's quite nice. I like that. Right, so let's get that. I'll get that pink one down. Like so. And then we'll pop the little honeycomb one. So we've got a flower that's sort of got a honeycomb, a hexagon base to it. Just be a bit different, just because I could really. Right, let's just moving that around a bit so that you can still see what's going on. I can take that one away. I like that one. Okay. And then I'm going to put a little one like that. That's kind of cute. Okay. Now I'm going to see if I can get some acetate strips. Let's see if we can have some clouds floating in midair. Whether that'll work. Right, I need to strengthen. Let's get in there. Oh look! Quite like it. I'm quite chuffed with that. Right, as I say, I'm just going to see if I can have, I just think, a couple of clouds floating in midair. It could look quite cool. So I'm just going to grab a piece of acetate. I'll be back in a moment. So I've made one. Look. and I'm about to make another one. We could possibly do some bumblebee. Oh, I don't know. Are we getting too colours? I have no bumblebee sort of cut and colour. Well, I've got some coloured, but not cut. Right, what am I doing? I don't want to cut that just yet. Right, so what I've done is, because we're working with acetate, it's sort of a very slippy surface, and the gel medium will work, but it is just going to take a bit of time so for it to stick. So it'd be kind of tomorrow before I could see whether this would work or look right or not. So because of that, I'm just going to stick it down with this incredibly strong double-sided tape. I can always put more gel medium on that later. So I've done the same there. I've got red liner tape at the bottom, which I'm now going to peel off and just attempt to stick this behind the daisy there. So, look, it's floating. That's kind of cool. It works when it's stood up, but when I put it a bit down to show you it sort of bends back, that's kind of cool. Right, so yeah. Oh, I love it when a plan comes together. Right, that's just going to need a bit more support in there. It's because I've been faffing about with it. Right, so I think we'll have another one behind our daisy's head, and then I might have a third one as well. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to just pop a bit of clear tape on that, and then I'm thinking I might have a little look through at my craft stash just to see if I've got something that I can just stick down there that will look like grass or some form of something. Oh, I've put that on the wrong side. Oops. This is where we'll see how incredibly strong this stuff is. Right, let's just take that off. Red liner tape is something I very rarely use, so I've got it, and yeah, I don't use it that often. Right, so I want it this side. I'll pop that there, and then let's just grab another one. Right, so we're going to pop that behind our daisy. I just need to slide that. I need to cut that a bit smaller. It's just going to affect the amount of sticky I've got. Never mind. Oops, well, it's going there because it's got caught there, and I can't tear it off now without tearing Daisy's face. So it's going there. Is somebody excited? Does someone seem ridiculously excited about that? That is ace. I love it. Right, I'm going to do another one there. Let's grab another cloud. So I'm going to get that sorted. So again, I'm just popping my red liner tape onto my acetate. So there you go. This is a recycled Scrabble kit. How awesome does it look? I'm so excited by that. Right, let's have a see. Yeah, I think we'll go behind this one somewhat. So we'll just cut that fairly short. And let's have pop, let me see, get this the right way round. So I'll stick a bit of tape on it there, and then I'm thinking that we'll just pop it behind this daisy here. Sorry, I realise you can't see. It is one of those projects that's just that a little bit difficult to film. Look. Oh, I love it. I love it. Right, I'm just going to see if we can find something for grass, and then we're going to call it done. These sort of fibery things, which I think could look like grass. We just need to green them up a little bit. So I'm just going to try and grab, I'm going to do it a few different ways actually, because I want a plethora of greens in there. So I've got some of my mustard seed. I'm going to put a bit of cracked pistachio in there, and a little bit of peacock feathers. I've got way too much ink there, but because I have gone on my blending mat, I can literally just stick that into a journal. So I'm going to swish all of this into here, and the fact that I've got the yellow and the blue and the green, we're going to get a variety of tones, which as we know is what I'm all about. So yeah, so now we've got a nice green colour. I'll pop that to the side and I'll just give that a little blast with my heat gun. Oops. And then we'll get that glued down, and then I think we're pretty good to go. Let's give that a dry. So I am just going to have to keep this upright. I know it's not ideal, and I apologise for that for you seeing. You should be able to see me actually squidging. That's a new word. Squidging the, I don't know what it's like, sort of sisal fibre thing. So I'm going to pop just a little bit of, the gel medium dry is clear, so if we have some squishing out, we don't have to worry about it overly. I'm just going to put a bit down here. I might have some sort of poking out from behind the thing as well. We'll see how we go. I've got plenty of green ink, so I can make more if need be. So I'm just going to stick that along there. That looks quite effective actually. This is like, you know when you get a bouquet of flowers and then there's all the sort of like little bits in behind it. And sometimes it's these little bits that just make it going, oh, like, I don't know, it brings everything together a little bit. Yeah, I'm liking that. That's kind of cute. And then what I will do is, because it's sort of on, it's almost on branches. That sounds a strange thing to say. I'm going to coat that a stocky bit, and then let's just see if we can kind of slide that down there. Ooh. And then we've got a bit more of this going on. Now I am doing the write up for the Chanda with this tomorrow, so I've got time. I'm going to let this dry and then show you it all dry tomorrow, when we don't have the gel medium and stuff poking out of it. But I think it's going to look quite good. So I'll pop that in a bit more, and then I think I'll have some on the outside as well. Well, not the outside. I know what I'm trying to say. Oh dear, just here. That's what I meant. I meant just there. Okay, let's get a bit of gel medium. I've just kind of tucked it just there. I'm gonna squish that down. Better with the paintbrush, but that's what I've got to hand for the minute. And then we can have some coming higher up, and just behind Queenie, just to sort of soften what's going on here. Oops. There we go. Oops. Actually, I'm not liking that's too twiggy. Right, that's what we've got so far. So I am just going to allow all of that to dry. When it is dry, I'll pop back first thing tomorrow morning. It'll be like a matter of seconds for you, and you can see what you think. Okay, so that is our project all finished. I'm absolutely delighted with this look, and I love the way the little clouds are suspended in mid-air. Yeah, so this was all done. So thank you so much for joining me for this project. For lots more inspiration, stay tuned, because we've got lots of videos coming up, and also we've got the show on February the 1st, 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock, so I hope you tune in and see our fabulous Emma demonstrate with these gorgeous little ladies as well. So once again, thank you for joining me today, and I hope you'll join me again. If you have enjoyed it here, please do consider liking and subscribing, and I'll be back with more crafty goodness very soon. Okay, take care then, and goodbye.